Located in the basement of Global Ministries Christian Church in Dorchester is an up-and-coming broadcast network catered to Boston's Black community.
We needed to have the news told by us, about us, and for us. And we looked at the news here in the city of Boston, and we didn't see a whole lot of people who looked like us in the newsrooms. They would always tell us, if it bleeds, it leads. So kids have to die in order for us to have stories about what's going on in the city. We wanted stories about people being successful. We wanted stories about our young people. And so we decided we would start Boston Black News.
I believe you. Yeah, come on, man. We have Sheriff Tompkins in the house of Boston Black News. 351 cities and towns. We are everywhere across the world. That's right, 7 continents.
Pastor Bruce Wall is the CEO and founder of Boston Black News and Boston Praise Radio and TV. He works alongside Ron Bell, a broadcaster for the network, to deliver the news to their community in a distinctive way.
We're able to interact in a way that we're not just reporting. You notice how all the different broadcasters on the various networks, they all sound alike, they talk alike. We had a little flavor.
The pandemic today is the #1 story.
We have songs, we have, different music with themes, whether it's voter turnout, whether it's community organizing, whether it's dealing with the vaccine. We educate our people in our own and unique way.
In fact, Pastor Wall says at times Boston Black News has the upper hand compared to other media outlets.
And they tell the stories. What happens over at GBH and the Boston Globe, and I'm not complaining, but what happens is that they hear about a story, they'll run out and cover it, but they're not going to get the same response from people when they talk that we'll get.
Dr. Meredith Clark, an associate professor in the Northeastern University School of Journalism, says news organizations like Boston Black News allow journalists of color to connect with their community through shared experiences.
We have a connection, a cultural connection, by virtue of the experiences that we've all had. So even though our experiences may vary, there are going to be some commonalities and some consistencies that help inform that reporting.
The Black Lives Matter movement brought new attention to the lack of diversity in the newsroom. Black journalists felt their perspectives on police brutality and racism were important, but were often overlooked or even discouraged by supervisors and peers. A 2020 Boston Globe article found that only 10% of the 126 full-time TV reporters and anchors, sports radio hosts, analysts, play-by-play announcers, newspaper columnists, and website reporters in the greater Boston area were Black. But Boston Black News is striving to change those statistics, and Clark supports their efforts.
If I want perspective about what it's like to be Black in Boston, that's not going to come through a series of features or even through reporting that is by a Black reporter, but produced in a mainstream outlet. I want the kind of experiences unvarnished, told in a way that doesn't necessarily fit in with dominant narratives, that I'm going to find from a culturally specific producer. And so this gives me an opportunity to learn more about what it's like to be a Black person in Boston from other Black people in Boston.
Boston Black News is not the first news organization to try to advocate and amplify the voices of people of color. The Bay State Banner is an independent newspaper that also focuses its news content on the interests of Boston's Black community. Bell says that Boston Black News hopes to work alongside news organizations like the Bay State Banner to expand their outreach and promote unity.
I think it's important that different news outlets work together so that folks can tell their story from different lenses, and they're able to bring everyone and demonstrate that there is unity.
Pastor Wall and Bell are confident that their business model and their perseverance will keep them afloat in Boston's large media market.
I think we're surviving because we have not done things to put ourselves in debt. We're not in debt. We're just holding our own. And we're slowly but surely receiving donations and financial support, but we're not going to go any bigger than the resources that we have. So that's going to help us to stay afloat.
As for the future of Boston Black News, Pastor Wall plans to keep the network around as a fruitful source of news as long as he can.
I don't want to sell this and become a millionaire. I want to grow this for the community. And when I'm no longer here, I want it to still live on.
We're going to be right back at 10 o'clock for the next part of our broadcast. God bless you. I'll be right back.
And I want others to be able to take my place and still grow this, because knowledge is power, and we're feeding people with a lot of knowledge every single day that they can't get anywhere else.